It was 1984 when I first stumbled upon the phrase near-death experience, NDE, in the pages of a medical journal. It was several years later that I heard a friend's wife tell of her own NDE when she nearly died of an allergic reaction while under general anesthetic. More than 10 years later, in 1998, I started the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation and its corresponding website, ndrf.org. One of my goals for the site was to collect as many NDEs as I could and to collect them through a questionnaire that would make it easy to separate and study their elements. With such a questionnaire, I could examine the individual elements in NDEs or an entire NDE itself. I expected to be successful in an endeavor, but as it has turned out, I have been wildly successful. Over the course of the first 10 years, more than 1,300 people who had a near-death experience spent many hours of their precious time answering over 100 questions in NDER's detailed questionnaire. These people are of every race, creed, and color and are from virtually every corner of the world. That so many people are willing to share their NDEs with others speaks volumes about the power of these experiences in a person's life. Respondents describe their experiences in a variety of ways, calling them unspeakable, ineffable, unforgettable, beautiful beyond words, and so on. More than 95% of the respondents feel their NDE was definitely real, while virtually all of the remaining respondents feel it was probably real. Not one respondent has said it was definitely not real. Some say it was not only the most real thing to ever happen to them but also the best event of their lives. As one respondent who nearly died in a suicide attempt wrote, "I was at peace with myself. Nothing hurt. I could only see my life and self through that being's love. There was no negative in myself or from that being for anything I had done, including killing myself. My deed was changed by the power of the truth of love with which it was seen. That loving grace, total acceptance, complete love and truth created a joy in me. I saw that love was in me too, not just from the being shining down on me, it was in me as part of myself. I was full of love and peace. I felt the joy in that truth. I have no right words for it. I have seen this type of response from many people with near-death experiences. Imagine that, an experience that begins with the sheer terror of a life-threatening event and evolves into an event of wonder and mystery. I am a man of science, and as a result I have examined the data from the NDRF study in a scientific way. At NDRF we explored all of the elements in the NDEs of more than 1,000 people, examining consistency among the accounts. In reaching conclusions about these accounts, we followed a basic scientific principle: what is real is consistently seen among many different observations. The results of the NDRF study clearly indicate remarkable consistency among NDE case studies. This study finds that what people discovered during their near-death experience about God, love, afterlife, reason for our earthly existence, earthly hardships, forgiveness, and many other concepts is strikingly consistent across cultures, races, and creeds. Also, these discoveries are generally not what would have been expected from pre-existing societal beliefs, religious teachings, or any other source of earthly knowledge. In a world that is plagued by afflictions of the soul, this is very good news. Many of the personal and social problems that face humanity, drug and alcohol abuse, depression, anxiety, gang violence, religious strife, racism, and so on, could be greatly affected by such a powerful common experience. Because NDEs happen to people all over the world, they are a spiritual thread that binds us together, a common experience that reminds us of our mutual spiritual nature. At its very least, the NDRF study contributes information that strengthens our understanding of that spiritual thread. But the NDRF study is also exceptionally valuable in the way that it brings us closer to understanding what happens when we die. I long ago quit believing that death is the cessation of our existence. It took me a long time to reach this point. I was born into a scientific family. My father was the chair of the Department of Pharmacology at the University of Iowa and a one-time contender for the Nobel Prize. Through him and others in our family I developed great respect for science. By scientifically studying the more than 1,300 cases shared with NDRF, I believe that the 9 lines of evidence presented in this book all converge on one central point: there is life after death. The convergence of several lines of evidence, like the 9 presented in this book, builds a much stronger case than only a single line of evidence. For example, suppose we had only 2 lines of NDE evidence. We may not be 100% convinced that these 2 lines of evidence prove an afterlife, but perhaps each line of evidence by itself is 90% convincing. Combined, these 2 lines of evidence by mathematical calculation are 99% convincing that the afterlife exists. 1. Given how complex it is to mathematically analyze only 2 lines of evidence, imagine how mind-boggling it would be to mathematically analyze all 9 lines of NDE evidence. Fortunately, that won't be necessary. The NERF website includes a custom-designed form that automatically performs these mathematical calculations. This website wizardry allows you to calculate for yourself how strongly you believe the 9 lines of evidence prove the existence of an afterlife. You can also see the results obtained from every other person who has completed this form. This form and other material supplementing this book is available on the NERF website at our page that explores evidence of the afterlife. The form addresses concepts presented throughout this book. Thus, I would encourage you to finish reading this book before you complete the form. Before continuing, I should provide a detailed explanation of what a near-death experience is. Near-death experiences, NDEs, are events that take place as a person is dying or, indeed, is already clinically dead. People who have NDEs are called near-death experiences, NDEs. From the time near-death experiences were first medically researched and described by Dr. Raymond Moody in his pioneering book, Life After Life, in 1975, medical doctors and other researchers have examined this phenomenon in depth. There is no widely accepted definition of near-death experience. The NERF study took a straightforward approach by defining both the near-death and experience components of near-death experience. I considered individuals to be near death if they were so physically compromised that they would die if their condition did not improve. The NDEs studied were generally unconscious and often apparently clinically dead, with absence of heartbeat and breathing. The experience had to occur at the time they were near death. Also, the experience had to be lucid, to exclude descriptions of only fragmentary and disorganized memories. Throughout this book we will present the results of the NERF survey. Unless otherwise indicated, these will be the results from surveying 613 sequential NDEs who completed the most recent version of the NERF survey. This version of the survey included the NDE scale questions. The NDE scale asks 16 questions about the content of the experience and is the most validated research method to help distinguish experiences that are near-death experiences from those that are not. The 613 NDEs whose survey results we are presenting here all had NDE scale scores of 7 or above, further validating these experiences as actual NDEs. The original version of the NERF survey studied responses from 413 NDEs. The NDE scale questions were not used in the original NERF survey. No 2 near-death experiences are identical. However, when many near-death experiences are studied, a pattern of elements that commonly occurs in NDEs is easily seen. These elements usually occur in consistent order. Researchers have concluded that NDEs may include some or all of the following 12 elements. 1. Out-of-body experience, OBE, separation of consciousness from the physical body. 2. Heightened senses. 3. Intense and generally positive emotions or feelings. 4. Passing into or through a tunnel. 5. Encountering a mystical or brilliant light. 6. Encountering other beings, either mystical beings or deceased relatives or friends. 7. A sense of alteration of time or space. 8. Life review. 9. Encountering unworldly, heavenly realms. 10. Encountering or learning special knowledge. 11. Encountering a boundary or barrier. 12. A return to the body, either voluntary or involuntary. Below are descriptions of each of these elements from the case studies I have amassed over more than 10 years of research, as well as the percentage of NDEs from our study group who experienced each of the elements. I could feel my spirit actually leaving my body. I saw and heard the conversations between my husband and the doctors taking place outside my room, about 40 feet away down a hallway. I was later able to verify this conversation to my shocked husband. One NDE observed in the out-of-body state the reaction of the doctor to nearly losing this patient. "Why were you so upset, screaming and swearing in the operating room? Didn't you know that I could hear every word you said?" This NDE then shared what the doctor responded. "You are right. I was so frustrated and tired and angry in that operating room that I just started screaming when we were losing you. It was either scream or cry. You were dying and there was not a damn thing that I could do to stop it. I will have to rethink what I say to an unconscious patient from now on, won't I?" Out-of-body experiences are often the first NDE element. The Nerve survey asked 613 NDErs, did you experience a separation of your consciousness from your body? In response, 75.4% answered yes.